Right now, as you watch this video, the world is burning through more than 1,000 barrels of oil every single second. You probably think oil is something we measure in decades. It isn't. It's measured in seconds, barrels, and days, and the countdown never stops. Every 24 hours, the planet consumes roughly 103 to 105 million barrels of oil. That's enough to fill over 6,500 Olympic swimming pools. Gone, burned, converted into motion. Before you wake up tomorrow. Here's the part that should really worry you. Depending on who you ask, the world has anywhere between 14 and 57 years of proven oil reserves left. That's not a typo. That's how uncertain the math has become. And nobody agrees on the number. Imagine a giant hourglass buried underground, stretching from Texas to Saudi Arabia to Siberia. Every second, oil drains out of it, draining right now. That oil gets funneled into planes, ships, cars, and factories on every continent, and nobody agrees on how much sand is left. That's not a thought experiment. That's the actual state of global energy accounting in 2026. Most people think oil is measured in tanks or wells. It isn't. The entire global industry runs on one unit, the barrel. 42 US gallons, or about 159 liters. Here's how the math scales, from one person up to the entire planet. One person. The average human uses about half a gallon of oil-derived product a day, roughly 0.37 barrels a month. A state of 1 million people. That scales to roughly 12,000 barrels a day, or 370,000 barrels a month, just to keep it moving. And that's conservative. A wealthy, car-heavy population burns several times more. Multiply it. A country the size of the US, around 300 million people, consumption jumps to 19 to 20 million barrels a day, the biggest appetite on Earth. A continent, Asia alone, thanks to China, India, and rapid industrialization, now accounts for well over a third of global demand. The whole world, all of that adds up to the 103 to 105 million barrels a day. You heard in the opening, multiply by 30 for the month. It sounds simple. It isn't, because consumption keeps climbing, even as the reserves underneath us stay finite. That's the problem. You'd think this would be the easiest number in the entire energy industry to calculate. It's not. The world currently holds around 1.5 to 1.77 trillion barrels of what's called proven reserves, oil confirmed to exist and extractable today. Divide that by daily consumption, and you get the reserve-to-production ratio. Depending on which agency you ask, that number changes dramatically. About 47 years, according to OPEC. About 57 years, according to Worldometer's broader dataset. As low as 14 years, according to energy analytics firm Rystad, if you count only confirmed oil and stop assuming new discoveries keep pace. Why such a massive gap? New oil fields are being discovered far slower than old ones are drained. In 2024 alone, the world pumped roughly 30 billion barrels, while new discoveries added back less than 2 billion, a replacement rate of just 6%. Think of it like a bank account. You know your balance today. What you don't know is whether next month's paycheck covers what you're about to spend. And right now, the world is spending far faster than it's depositing. Most people think oil comes from dead dinosaurs. It doesn't. Think again. Oil is made from something far smaller and far older, microscopic marine plankton and algae, buried under seafloor mud hundreds of millions of years ago. Long before dinosaurs ever existed, millions ever existed, trillions of tiny organisms die and sink to the ocean floor. Layers of sediment bury them. before oxygen can break them down, trapping their carbon-rich remains. Over millions of years, more layers pile on top. The pressure and heat from being buried deeper cooks that organic material. At the right depth and temperature, roughly 2 to 4 kilometers down, at 60 to 120 degrees Celsius, that cooked material transforms into liquid crude oil. That oil migrates upward through porous rock until it hits a barrier it can't get through, a trap where it pools and waits.
Sometimes for tens of millions of years, until someone drills into it. Until now.
The entire process takes 10 to 100 million years. We are draining, in a single century, a resource that took geological ages to create. That's the trade. It cannot be sped up. It cannot be manufactured. Once a reservoir is empty, it's empty for the rest of human history. Here's a question almost nobody can answer. Why does a strip of desert around the Persian Gulf hold nearly half the proven oil on the entire planet? It comes down to 3 ingredients, lining up perfectly, millions of years apart. First, the source rock. Around 150 million years ago, this region sat at the bottom of a warm, shallow sea called the Tethys Ocean. That sea produced an unbelievable volume of organic-rich mud. The raw ingredient oil is made from, for tens of millions of years. Second, geological stability. Unlike regions crushed by tectonic activity, this one has been calm. That means the oil that formed there mostly stayed there, instead of leaking away or cooking into unusable gas from extreme heat. Third, giant traps. As the Arabian Plate slowly collided with the Iranian Plate, it created enormous, gently folded rock domes. Iran and Iraq sit directly on top of some of the largest anticline traps ever formed on Earth, fields holding tens of billions of barrels. An unusually productive ancient sea, an unusually stable neighborhood, unusually large traps, all stacked in one region. That combination makes the Middle East, and Iran and Iraq specifically, geological jackpots, hundreds of millions of years of very specific timing. Compare that to the North Sea, or the Gulf of Mexico, where oil sits in smaller, harder-to-reach pockets. And you start to understand why global power has quietly orbited for over a century. Consumption isn't standing still. Every year, the world burns roughly 1 million more barrels per day than the year before, driven by growing economies in Asia and Africa. Meanwhile, the easy oil, Prussian, shallow, cheap, high-quality crude, is running out first. What's left increasingly requires deep offshore drilling, heavy crude processing, or fracking, all of which cost more money and energy to extract the same barrel. At some point, the cost of getting oil out of the ground starts to rival the value of the oil itself. Almost equal. Analysts call this economic extractability. This is the point where a resource technically exists, but pulling it out no longer makes financial sense. That's not a problem for some distant future generation. Multiple current estimates put that pressure point within a single human lifetime. So what are the countries and companies sitting on top of these reserves actually doing? Not panicking. Positioning. Middle Eastern producers are pouring record sums into diversification, solar megaprojects, sovereign wealth funds, technology, while still pumping oil at near-record rates. Major Western oil companies are doing something similar, funding carbon capture, alternative fuels, next-generation infrastructure, all while extracting as much conventional oil as the market allows. None of this is charity. It's the same players, in every scenario, making sure that whatever comes after oil, they're still holding the leverage. The oil may run out. The people who control it are betting that their control won't. That's the bet. So the real question isn't just how much oil is left. It's who gets to decide what happens when the number hits zero.
And that decision is already being made. Quietly. Right now.